So these days a lot of phone brands release a lot of phones, especially the case with devices like of course the Poco M4 and then the M5 right after it. But there are some of course things that you have to take away from that. A lot of those phones are new and they get a new price to them. This means that of course compared to their previous generation the prices are quite high, and you can actually get more out of a phone when you buy something that has been made a bit before. Something like the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G, one of my favorite budget-like phones, well, mid-range phones I would earlier say. When it comes to of course having a phone that is price friendly, like of course the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G, being around 350 euros new, but of course secondhand you can get it cheaper. I will have to say that you get a lot for it, and especially if you buy something like this secondhand, like for 200 euros or something like that, you get a lot more value for the money that you pay for a phone like this. You get, for instance, a 90Hz AMOLED display, you get 65W charging, you get a phone that actually has a 3.5mm headphone jack, and overall a good software experience. I think OnePlus does that really well, but that also makes it really difficult to recommend a certain phone. The biggest thing for me always with a mid-range phone is what is the preference for someone, because I cannot tell you what your preference is, it just is, right? So for instance, I care about having a headphone jack and having a good camera. Headphone jack is here, and the camera is actually not bad at all, the main camera. The ultra wide is a little bit soft for my taste. But someone else can care, for instance, about having a better CPU. Here enters the Poco F4 or F3 even. But again, that makes it something that has to do with preference. Why now though? If I want to tell you about a phone that is really balanced in terms of performance and having features like the 3.5mm headphone jack, like having of course fast charging, and like overall having a clean software experience, yeah, the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G, while it being older, is still a phone I can easily recommend. So let's discuss how it held up so far, because there are some things that I want to note about it, and even though I can still recommend it, yeah, not seeing any updates is a bit of a shame for a device that is so good for the value. To begin with, I've never been about needing the latest Android version on my phone. I don't think it's the key importance when it comes to a phone. Yes, security updates definitely are important for me. I think they need to be updated and they need to be kept at a certain security level, right? Because every single time there is something that can happen to your phone, so security updates are important, no matter what kind of Android version you are running. Sadly though, that's where I feel like the OnePlus Nord CE falls a little bit short. OnePlus Nord CE2 5G. It's a weird name still, and I don't know why they chose something like that. But the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G. So if I check for the latest update right now, the Android security is actually from the 5th of January 2022. This means that the security update is actually quite old. And I think definitely that's something that they need to work on. But for some reason, even though it's running Android 11 and has that security update from January 2022, I still think this is one of your better choices when it comes to having a mid-range phone. Now, do I know what kind of support they will bring to this phone later on? Do I know if they will bring updates more to this phone? Right now, I couldn't tell you, because honestly, so far, it seems that updates haven't been really solid on the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G. So why do I still recommend it then? Well, I stated, you get a charger included, 65W. You get a pretty good battery life with a 4500 mAh battery inside. The CPU is decent with the Dimensity 800 and it performs well in day-to-day life. Overall, again, the price being around 350 euros, although I wouldn't buy it for that currently. If you can get it for like 250, maybe a bit under 300, definitely worth it. And of course you get the headphone jack as well. Overall, software experience is really clean, it runs smooth. I really haven't had any issues with the phone itself. Camera experience is also quite solid, although I will have to say again that the ultra wide is a little bit of a letdown compared to the main sensor itself. And overall, just the experience has been good for me with the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G. The weight is good, it's a 6.43 inch AMOLED display as stated, with good brightness as well. So honestly, right there, on that spec list alone, I feel like the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G does a lot for the money that you can pay for it. Again, if you can get it for a little bit about 250 or just below 300, then yeah, The OnePlus Nord CE2 5G is probably one of my favorite devices. And yes, I've been testing a lot of devices lately and there are a lot of options out there. But for OnePlus Nord CE2 5G, what it offers for me is that camera experience, but also that 3.5mm headphone jack that I love. And software experience for me with OnePlus has been solid. I really have no complaint about it. I know that OnePlus right now, as I stated in my OnePlus 10T review, is that you should hate it for some reason as a tech reviewer, but I don't. I think OnePlus is actually doing a solid job when it comes to their phone. Yes, they aren't the most powerful. Yes, they aren't, of course, the best in terms of camera, but overall, you are paying less for it. So it makes perfect sense for me. What are some other devices? Well, as I said, for instance, the Poco F4, I heard a lot of great things about it. Having that Snapdragon 870 inside is definitely a huge selling point for me, because that, without a doubt, is one of the best CPUs that you can have in your phone. It's very efficient and it doesn't run anywhere near as hot, and it doesn't throttle as much as, for instance, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 or the 888 even. So in terms of that, definitely something like the Poco F4 is good. But I do think compared to the OnePlus, it falls a little bit short in terms of software, with of course having ads compared to what I've seen on reviews, because I haven't used it myself. And of course it does fall short on having a 3.5mm headphone jack. But that also makes it really hard for me to give you a proper answer on which is my favorite device for a certain price. But if you want my honest opinion about a phone that is about 250 euros to 300 euros, if you can get that for, of course, the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G, which I've seen some deals where you can get that for about that price, even new, a little bit below 300, then the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G is one of those phones that I can easily recommend. I can easily say, this is a phone you're going to be happy with for the price itself, and it offers most of what you need in day-to-day life, with the software, with the camera, with the battery charging, and of course the 3.5mm headphone jack. Either way, this was my short video about the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G, my experience in general, and of course how it held up in terms of updates and so on, which that is the downside for it. I will still have to say that I hope that they are getting updates right now, because I feel like that's a downside for a phone to not get those security updates at least. So let's wait and see how it holds up for a longer amount and see if we can get more updates for a phone like this, because I definitely feel like if this phone gets more updates and better support, yeah, I don't see why you shouldn't buy a phone like this for about the price that I recommended, for 250-ish. Either way, hope you enjoyed this video, and of course if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe and all that stuff, and check out some other videos that I made, including some terrible decisions from Apple that I hope we will never see on Android devices. Anyway, talk to you guys in the next.